The Boston Red Sox can't seem to find any consistency this year, and it's got me thinking, what is the biggest Red Sox missing piece? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and after a 6-game win streak, the Boston Red Sox split a series in Minnesota against, I guess, a fairly decent Minnesota team, and then they lost 2 out of 3 to the Chicago White Sox, officially bringing them back to dead even on the month, and really dead even on the year, right? A lot of people are talking about them being the Boston Mid Sox, and what this really has me thinking is, okay, what is missing on this Red Sox team that's preventing them from being an above-average baseball team? So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this latest series. We're going to talk about some of the positive takeaways from this series because, yes, there are some. And we're going to be talking about what is the missing piece on both sides of the ball. What is missing on offense and what is missing on defense to get this Red Sox team to the next level. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start by first going over the positive takeaways from the offense before we break down what's missing offensively. The biggest takeaway, in my opinion, in terms of positivity, is the fact that Rafael Devers reached base in every single game of this series. In fact, he finished the series going 3 for 9 with 4 walks, as well as an absolute moonshot of a home run. Rafael Devers taking walks and hitting tanks could be very good news for the Boston Red Sox, who have seen Rafi struggle mightily over these last couple of weeks, which he says is credited to a lot of pitchers in Major League Baseball pitching him a different way than he's ever seen in his entire career. Maybe that has something to do with the people around him. Maybe that just has to do with people trying to figure out Rafael Devers. But either way, it looks like he's starting to figure it out himself, and hopefully that puts him on the right track because the Red Sox desperately need it. Outside of that, Adam Duvall had a pretty good game in the last game of this series. He went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles that were absolute moonshots of doubles, right? They probably could have gotten out. One of them was, inches from leaving the stadium. The other one was hit really hard. He did also end up with an RBI in this game as well. Not a great overall series for Adam Duvall, but again, like Rafael Devers, this is a guy whose swing that you really kind of need to come back. Jarren Duran had a good game in this series as well. He had a game where he went 2 for 5 with 3 stolen bases back to back. He is just a menace on the base pass, and it is so fun to watch. I wish we could get more consistent gameplay out of Jarren Duran, but he had a really good game in this series. And speaking of speed, David Hamilton didn't have the greatest series at the plate. He wasn't on base a ton, but when he was on base, he was flat out disgusting. He ended up getting on base, stealing second, and then the pitcher tried to pick him off at second base, threw it into the outfield, and David Hamilton scored from second base. This guy is a ton of fun to watch on the base pass, and if he can figure out how to get on base consistently, he could be an absolute warrior on the base pass for the Red Sox. The problem is he's just simply not getting on base right now. Tristan Casas had 4 hits in this series, including a home run. Again, if we're looking for positives, Tristan Casas is looking so much better at the plate this month, and every game it feels like he's improving slightly in some way. We're starting to see a lot more consistent contact, and we're also starting to see a lot of that contact land for hits, right? Before we were seeing some contact from Tristan Casas, but it was a lot of weak ground balls and a lot of pop outs. Now we're starting to see those hard line drives that we've really been wanting all year. Yes, he did have a defensive blunder that probably did cost them the game in the second game of this series, but it definitely wasn't a routine play by any means. And honestly, I'm not going to put too much of that on Tristan Casas. That ball was absolutely scorched, and again, it wasn't like it was a weak ground ball to first base like we've seen before where he's messed it up. This one was scorched, so again, I'm not going to put that entirely on Casas, but also note that as well. But outside of that, there really wasn't much offense to talk about, and I think when we're talking about overall offensively, both in this series and throughout the entire year, the biggest missing piece is something we talk about all the time, and it's just simply consistency, right? The only player who was consistently good at the plate in this series was Rafael Devers. Everyone else we highlighted in this video had one good game. Tristan Casas is the only other one to have a couple of hits over a couple of different games and make an impact over a couple of different games. Everyone else had games where they were on and games where they were off, and it never really felt like the Red Sox offense was truly clicking in this series, and it's felt like that the entire year. When it comes down to it, right, How are you going to improve that? It's kind of a hard question to answer. Yes, you felt the absence of Alex Verdugo, who should be back this week. Yes, Trevor Story coming back at the beginning of next month and hopefully taking over a bit of a DH role kind of in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll add some life to this offense. But even with those guys, we've seen this offense be elite without these two guys, right? We've seen this offense be one of the best offenses in baseball, and it's not really a matter of who they have in this lineup. It's a matter of how often they can compete, right? Because you do have some very talented hitters within this lineup. Masataka Yoshida, Justin Turner, Rafael Devers, Adam Duvall, Alex Verdugo, Jarren Duran when he's hot, right? These are all really skilled athletes at what they do. They just haven't been able to put it together and compete as a team for the entirety of a season. And that's what the most frustrating part about this offense the entire year and in this series is to me, right? It's consistency and it's a lack of timely hits. In my opinion, all throughout this series, you had opportunities where you could have scored. I'm not asking the Red Sox to go out there and score 8 runs a game. That's unrealistic, right? Once in a while, you're going to get shut down. Once in a while, you're only going to be able to muster across 2-3 runs. But it's taking advantage of opportune times like a second and third with no outs and being able to at least plate one of those runners, right? How many times in this series and how many times over this year have we seen the Red Sox get bases loaded with no outs, down 2, right? Or bases loaded, 1 out, and you're down 1, and not be able to scratch a single run across the plate? And that's what's most frustrating to me. And to me, that's the biggest missing piece right now. It's not the personnel on this team, it's the fact that they can't put together consistent at-bats. As for the pitching in this series, I would say starting pitching wise, it was fairly solid. You had Brian Bayo go in the first game, who continues to look so incredibly good. He went 6 2/3 innings, allowing just 1 earned run on 6 hits while striking out 5. My favorite thing about this Brian Bayo start is you could tell he wasn't fully there. Like, he was a little bit off on his control. His pitches weren't going where he wanted them to go. But the mark of a true great pitcher is when you do have off days like that, you're still effective. And that's exactly what Bayo was able to do in this start. He's growing up and developing into a top line starting pitcher right before our eyes, and honestly, it's been one of my favorite parts of this entire season. James Paxton got the ball in game 2, and he only went 4 innings, allowing 1 earned run on 2 hits and striking out 3. He got lifted a bit early due to knee soreness. After the game and the day after, he talked to reporters where he said, yes, he's had issues like this in the past. No, he does not think he's going to need an IL stint, and he should be good to go for his next start, but that's something to keep an eye on. He was solid while he was in the game though. And finally, you got Cutter Crawford, who ended up going 6 innings, allowing 4 earned runs on 5 hits. Honestly, if Lou Bob wasn't in the lineup, I think this is a much better start. He only walked 1 batter and struck out 4. The homers really beat Cutter Crawford in this game. Overall, I think it was a kind of start, right? It wasn't very good. It wasn't absolutely terrible. It's something that Cutter Crawford's just going to need to learn as he goes through his growing pains as a starting pitcher, as a pitcher in the big league in general, right? There are certain players that are going to have your number, and right now it looks like Luis Robert has Cutter Crawford's number and then some. As for the bullpen in this series, it was a bit shaky. You got a bit of a rough outing from Josh Winkowski. He was getting bit by the home run ball as well. 3 earned runs in his outing, and then you had Kenley Jansen obviously blow that save again. We sort of talked about it already. Part of that was the Tristan Casas blunder, which again, I really don't think is as easy of a play as it probably looked like it was. That ball was absolutely torched, and then he got that really, really unlucky bloop hit. I'm not worried about Kenley, but that was a bit of a rough outing. Outside of that, the bullpen was pretty good though, right? One guy I do want to highlight yet again is Chris Murphy, who has looked absolutely fantastic at the big league level, and I really hope he's the kind of guy who sticks around for a little bit. I think him coming out of the bullpen as a sort of a long relief left-handed option is really, really awesome, and going forward, especially with the injuries to this rotation, it could be perfect for this team. I think when it comes to what's the missing piece in this rotation, it's simply you need another starter, right? Right now, you are getting bit by injuries. James Paxton has to come out of the game early. That game probably looks a lot different if Josh Winkowski doesn't come in super early. You've got Chris Sale on the IL for a while. Corey Kluber gave you absolutely nothing, and Tanner Houck's injured as well. You can't keep pulling from the bullpen because you need those guys to stay healthy, and right now, we didn't really see it too much in this series, but overall, throughout the last couple of weeks and the next couple of weeks going forward, it's not going to be a huge recipe for success to continue going with the opener slash bullpen type games, right? Maybe that works for some teams. It doesn't seem to work for the Boston Red Sox, especially when your opener, like we've seen the last 2 times in Caleb Ort and Justin Garza, start the game off by giving up a couple of runs, right? It's just simply not a recipe for success. And if the Red Sox want to find consistency in their rotation within their pitching staff, they're going to have to get one more starter, because adding one more starter not only makes the rotation a bit stronger, it also helps the bullpen as well. They're not as worn down from having these bullpen games every 5 days. They don't have to worry about having to pull guys too early or having to leave guys out there too late. Adding in one more starter into this rotation is exactly what this team needs on the pitching side of things. So we're talking about missing pieces. It's on offense again. It's simply consistency, right? I don't know if bringing in another player is the answer to the offense's problem. I think what the answer to that problem is, these guys just need to start performing the way we know they can perform on a more regular basis, as opposed to having these insanely hot weeks and then cooling off for 2 of them, right? That's just not what above 500 teams do. And then again, pitching side of things, it's clear, it's obvious, it has to be at least one more starting pitcher, someone who can mend the bridge between either Houck or Sale and help you guys stay afloat over the next couple of months. And I think overall, again, in this series, you're playing down to what your opponent is, right? Over this year, we've seen that a lot from the Red Sox. When they play really good teams, they play up to that team's level. When they play really bad teams, they play down to that team's level, and it ends up exactly how you'd expect their record is right now, just 1 or 2 games above 500. Going forward, if the Red Sox do want to end up this season above 500, which, believe it or not, is still possible, they need to start beating these really bad teams as opposed to playing down to their level of baseball. And I don't know if it's going to be able to happen on a consistent basis because of what we've seen so far this year. But this series was a really frustrating one for me. And honestly, it just really highlighted that the Red Sox just appear to be missing something. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. 1, what did you think of this latest Red Sox series, losing 2 games to the Chicago White Sox? 2, if you do think there is a missing piece, either offensively, defensively, or pitching wise, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.